The rifle barely trembled in May Quinn's frozen hands as she stood between her children and the man who'd come to erase the last thing she had left. Wind screamed through the shattered window behind her, flinging snow across the hardwood floor. 3 small bodies clung to her torn skirts. Their breath rose in thin white clouds. Their toes were purple from cold. Blood stained the boards near May's feet, where she'd dropped from exhaustion an hour earlier. But her eyes, dark amber, sharp as glass, held a fire so fierce it made Silas Boone, the wealthiest and hardest man in Wyoming territory, freeze in her doorway. "You want this house?" May whispered, voice cracked by cold and fear and something deeper. "Then you'll bury me and my babies right here in the snow." Silas had come to take her land. He hadn't expected to find something worth dying for. The winter of 1884 came down on Redwood Basin like a hammer. Snow buried fence posts. Wind clawed the lungs from any creature foolish enough to wander outside. And Silas Boone, who feared nothing, not loss, not weather, not men, pushed his gelding through drifts chest high as he climbed toward the old boarding lodge that stood between him and the railroad route he needed. He'd made harsher rides with colder motives. But something about this one gnawed at him. Beside him, his surveyor Elmer Tate shouted through the wind. "Storm's worsening. We should wait till morning." Silas didn't slow. No delays. "But it's Christmas Eve, boss." "It's business," Silas said, jaw tight. Business doesn't care about Christmas. He believed that, had lived by it for 10 years. Ever since the night his wife and young daughter were killed while he met investors in Denver, believing he'd be home the next day, believing he had more time. Silas didn't believe in more time anymore. The Quinn homestead appeared through a curtain of white, 2 stories of gray boards, most sagging with neglect. Smoke struggled from a crooked chimney. One window flickered with lamplight. The others were covered in canvas or broken outright. "This is the place?" Elmer asked, wiping ice from his beard. 10 acres. Only workable line through this basin. Silas dismounted with deliberate steps. "Mrs. Quinn got 3 notices. She knows I'm coming." Elmer shifted uneasily. "She's a widow. It's business. She's got kids. Still business." Silas climbed the steps and pounded hard on the door. The kind of knock that promised answers, not mercy. Silence stretched. Then tiny footsteps. A face appeared in the opening, dark-haired, maybe 10 years old, far too thin. "Mama says we ain't buying nothing," the girl said. "I'm not selling. I'm here for May Quinn. It's about her property." The child's eyes widened in fear and fury both. "You're the railroad man." "I'm a railroad man." "Is your mother home, Rose?" A woman's voice rang sharp from deeper inside. "Rose, get away from that door." The girl vanished. The door began to shut. Silas caught it with his boot. "Mrs. Quinn, I rode 20 miles in a blizzard. You owe me 5 minutes." "I owe you nothing." The woman's voice answered, a voice worn raw by cold and hardship. "Move your boot or lose it." "Elmer," Silas said, without looking back. "Stable the horses." "Boss, this ain't now." Elmer hesitated, then rushed toward the barn. Silas kept his boot planted. "I'm authorized by the territorial surveyor to assess this land," he said. "You were sent 3 letters." "I can't burn letters for heat," she snapped. "And I won't house the man planning to throw my children into the snow." Silas exhaled slowly, forcing calm. "I don't want your children in the snow. I want to make a fair offer for this land." Silence fell. Sharp. Waited. Then, 5 minutes, she said. "You only. Your man stays out." Silas stepped inside, and the cold hit him like a club. Not outside cold, this. Was deeper, harder, the kind that lived in the bones of a place. The lodge was almost bare. A rickety table, mismatched chairs, a tiny stove barely hanging on to life. Frost clung to the inside of the windows. Then he saw her. May Quinn stood by the stove with a rifle leveled at his chest. She looked younger than he expected, maybe 29, but hardship had carved years into her face. Her dress was patched beyond recognition. Her hands trembled from cold, but her grip on the rifle was steady as iron. And her eyes, good God, her eyes, dark amber with flecks of gold, burning with a fury that dared the world, to take one more thing from her children. Speak, May said. Your minutes are running. Silas removed his hat out of instinct. Some courtesies were too old to die. Mrs. Quinn, I'm Silas Boone, Chief Surveyor for the Continental Western Railroad. I'm here to finalize acquisition. I know who you are, May said. Devil comes in many names. 3 children emerged from the shadows. Rose, a boy, maybe 7, Jamie, cheeks red from cold. A tiny girl, Lila, maybe 4, clutching a ragged doll with missing stuffing. These are my children, May said, though Silas hadn't asked. They should see the man who plans to make them homeless on Christmas Eve. Silas's chest tightened. 10 years hadn't softened the memory of his daughter, Nora, who would have been Jamie's age. He swallowed that down. This isn't about homelessness, he said. I'm offering you more than fair market. To go where? May demanded. Town won't take in a widow with 3 kids. My sister-in-law in Denver hates me, and the street doesn't take anyone. That isn't my concern. The words hit the air like a slap. Silas regretted them instantly, but couldn't take them back. Not your concern, May repeated slowly. Not your concern that my children are freezing. That Jamie cries for his father. That Rose hasn't had a full meal in weeks. She set the rifle down, not in surrender, but as if freeing both hands to flay him alive. You got children, Mr. Boone. Silas's jaw locked. Had. May's anger flickered. Not pity, recognition. You know loss, then. You know what it feels like when the world rips everything you love away and leaves you standing there with nothing but guilt. My history doesn't change the line, Silas said. No, she whispered, but it should change whether you sleep at night. Then May opened the stove's lid. Books burned inside, pages curling to black. She fed another in. My husband built this lodge with his own hands, she said. He died in the Silvertail mine collapse. Company paid me $50. Silas felt the words hit. And now you want the only thing he left us, May said. His work, his promise, our home. She pulled a folded paper from her apron and handed it to him. Anger sharpened her every movement. I made my own survey, she said. There's another route. 2 miles north through Dead Noon Pass. Harder, yes, but viable. Silas unrolled the paper. Math, notes, angles. She'd done real work. This would cost the railroad $40,000, Silas said. Cheaper than a scandal when I write to every politician in Denver, May answered. You'd fight knowing you'll lose? I'd fight because I promised my husband I'd keep this place. Lila tugged May's dress. Manga, I'm cold. May gathered her daughter close, eyes softening with pain, so fierce Silas had to look away. She was right. He was the bad man in this child's eyes. Mrs. Quinn, Silas said quietly, I'll survey your alternate route. May blinked. You mean it? I mean, I'll look. I promise nothing else. You'll need a place to stay, she said warily. Silas scanned the frozen walls. This lodge take guests, not ones who aim to take it away. I'll pay. He placed 40 on the table. May stared at it, throat tight. Pride warred with necessity. You stay 1 month, she said. You obey my rules. No liquor, no profanity. You eat what we eat. And if I tell you to leave, you leave. Understood. But when Silas saw the state of the house, burned books, broken windows, children shivering, he made a decision that surprised even him. Give me a list, he said. For what? May asked. Supplies. We don't take charity. It's prepayment for lodging. I can't work in a frozen room. May stared at him, studying him, searching for cruelty or pity. Finally, she nodded. You'll get the list. 3 hours later, Elmer returned with a wagon load of wood, flour, bacon, beans, blankets, and glass to fix the windows. The children stared like it was treasure. May stared like it was a miracle she didn't trust. Why? She whispered. It's business, Silas answered. They both knew he was lying. That night, after the children ate their first warm meal in days and fell asleep with full bellies, Silas lay in the cold guest room, listening to May hum a soft tune while she tucked them in. It hit him like a blow. This wasn't just a house. It was survival. It was promise. It was dignity. Silas Boone had ruined men for far less. But as he stared at the patched ceiling, listening to the soft breathing of 3 children who'd nearly been lost to winter, Silas felt something he hadn't felt in 10 years. Hope and fear of it. He told himself he needed only 60 days. 60 days to survey Dead Noon Pass. 60 days to prove it impossible. 60 days to walk away. But as the wind screamed past the window and May's soft voice drifted through the walls like a prayer, Silas Boone knew 60 days might destroy him or save him. Dawn crept unwillingly over Redwood Basin, cold and pale as a ghost. The lodge walls still held more frost than warmth, but for the first time in weeks, the fire didn't die overnight. May Quinn had risen before first light, feeding the stove with careful handfuls of the new which Silas had brought. Enough to stretch, enough to keep her children from waking blue-lipped. Silas Boone emerged from the back room just as May was kneading dough at the rough-hewn table. A dusting of flour streaked her cheek. Her braid hung loose over her shoulder. She looked exhausted, yet determined, as if strength itself had been forged from grief and necessity. Silas lingered by the doorway, watching. "You're up early," he said. May didn't look up. Mothers rise early whether they want to or not. Railroad men, too, I hear. Every day before sunrise, Silas answered. May punched the dough hard enough to shake the table. Her anger wasn't subtle. "Something wrong with the bread?" Silas asked quietly. May's fingers tightened on the dough. "Just thinking." "About what?" "About how I'm supposed to hold my head up," she said, knowing I accepted things my pride said I shouldn't. Silas leaned against the wall. "Last night wasn't charity. It was a don't lie," May cut in sharply. "Not today." Her voice trembled, but not with fear, with humiliation. "You brought enough firewood to last half the winter," she said. "Enough food to fatten an army. You knew what that meant to us. You knew I'd have to choose between pride and my children." "That's survival," Silas said. "No," May whispered. "That's a woman forced to swallow her dignity so her little ones don't starve." She covered the dough with a cloth and turned from him. Silas stayed silent. He'd built empires on the backs of decisions just like this, cutthroat, cold, necessary. But here, in this cabin, with this woman who'd burned books to keep her children alive, the calculus felt different. May's breath shook once before she steadied it. "You planning to justify it?" she asked. "To tell me this was just business?" "Would it help?" "It might help you sleep," she muttered. "Not me." Silas stepped closer. "Mistakes were made yesterday," he admitted. May's back stiffened. "By who?" she asked. "By both of us," Silas said softly. She turned. Her eyes were tired, not from lack of sleep, but from weeks, months, maybe years of fighting a world eager to break her. And still, she stood. Still, she didn't bend. A small shuffle broke the tension. Lila stumbled out from the children's room, hair sticking out wildly, clutching her new doll like it was treasure. "Mama, it's warm." Her voice carried wonder. "The house is warm." The little girl ran into May's arms, her face alight, her toes no longer purple. "Mr. Boone brought us firewood," May said softly. "Lots and lots." Lila blinked at Silas, big-eyed. "Is he still the bad man?" May froze. Silas's chest squeezed. "That depends," May murmured. "People can be complicated." Silas crouched to Lila's eye level. "I don't want to be the bad man," he said. The little girl studied him with all the wisdom of a child who'd already seen too much. "Then don't take our house," she whispered. Silas didn't answer, because he didn't know if he could. When Jamie and Rose tumbled out of the back room minutes later, the warmth of the fire hit them like a miracle. The smell of bacon filled the lodge. Real bacon. Jamie's eyes glistened, but he blinked back the emotion with the stubbornness of a boy trying to be older than his years. "Mama," Rose breathed, "is it really Christmas?" May forced a smile, one Silas recognized as equal parts courage and heartbreak. "Yes," she said, "it is." Jamie looked at Silas then, jaw tight. "You're still talking our place, ain't you?" Silas opened his mouth, then closed it again, because he didn't know the truth yet, and a lie would make this worse. "We'll see," Silas said finally. Jamie snorted softly. "That means yes." May put a hand on her son's shoulder. "Enough. Eat your breakfast." The children gathered eagerly. Silas stepped aside, letting the family move around him. He wasn't used to weaving through small bodies or stepping around drop dolls or being asked to pass a cup because a little hand couldn't reach. It made the cabin feel alive, and it made something in Silas ache. After breakfast, the children played by the stove while May packed provisions for the day's hike. "You're coming with me?" Silas asked. May didn't glance up. "You'll need a guide. Dead Noon Pass is no place for guessing." "You hurt your rib," he said. "I'm healed." "That's not what you told me yesterday." "I'm healed enough." Silas stepped closer. She froze at the sound of her name on his tongue. "You don't have to prove anything," he said. "I have to prove this route works," she said. "Otherwise, we lose everything." She tightened the straps on her pack and handed Jamie a quick kiss on the forehead. "Be good for Mrs. Hanley," she told the children. "We'll be back before dark." Rose hugged her tightly. "Don't let Mr. Boone make you cry, Mama." May swallowed hard. "That's not his goal," she whispered. But Silas wasn't sure she believed that. He wasn't sure he believed it either. The wind cut sharp as they began to climb. Silas carried the transit, the measuring chains, the notebooks. May carried the provisions with silent determination. They walked through snow-laden pines, the world quiet except for the creak of branches and crunch of boots. After an hour of silence, Silas finally spoke. "Your husband," he said carefully. "What was he like?" May's steps faltered. "That's a strange question." "Maybe, but I'd like to know." May kept walking. "I love the man he used to be," she said finally. "Not the one he became." Silas waited. "He was gentle when we met," May said. "Full of ideas. Full of charm. He promised me partnership. A home. A future. What changed?" "Hardship," she said simply. "And pride. A man could drown in pride faster than in water." Silas nodded. "I know something about that." "I imagine you do." The trail narrowed. May stepped aside, letting Silas go first. "Your wife and daughter," she murmured. "Their names." Silas swallowed. "Caroline and June." May's voice softened. "How old was June?" 7. Jamie's age. May slowed. "You love them. With everything I was. And when you lost them, you shut down." Silas stiffened. "You don't know me." "I know grief," she whispered. "It leaves fingerprints on people. Yours are everywhere." Silas stopped walking. May nearly bumped into him. "Why are you saying this?" he asked. "Because you pretend you don't care," she said. "But you do. Too much. It scares you." He didn't answer. Because the truth sat heavy and undeniable. "Yes," May murmured. "I see in your face when Jamie looks at you like you're the villain. You flinch. Because you're not the villain, Silas Boone. You're a man who buried his heart to survive." He stepped back, breathing uneven. "Don't," he whispered. "Don't what?" May asked. "Don't try to fix me." May blinked. "I'm not trying to fix you," she said, voice thin. "I'm trying to understand a man threatening to take my home." Silas exhaled shakily. "We should keep moving." May nodded, and they walked. By midday, they reached the first ridge. Silas set up the transit. May pointed out the safest angles, the hidden dips, the unstable ledges. They worked in silence until Silas finally looked up from the lens. "You surveyed this yourself?" he asked. "Yes. These calculations are impressive." "I was a school teacher," she said simply. Silas blinked. He hadn't expected that. "You're educated," he said softly. "Most folks don't notice," May answered. "They see a widow, a burden, a problem." Silas looked at her. Really looked. "You're a force of nature." May's breath caught. "That's a dangerous compliment, Mr. Boone." "It's not a compliment," Silas murmured. "It's the truth." Her cheeks flushed. "Not from the cold." "Don't say things like that," she warned softly. "Why?" "Because I can't afford to like you." Silas's pulse kicked. "And if you did?" May looked away toward the snow-dusted peaks. "Then I'd have to lose you," she whispered. "And I've lost enough." Silas stepped closer. The wind quieted. The world narrowed to the space between them. "I don't want to hurt you," he said. "Then don't." "It's not that simple." "It is," May said. "You choose who you become next, Silas Boone. Not your past. Not your partners. You." Silas stared at her. "May, don't," she breathed. "If you say anything soft right now, I'll break." Silas reached for her arm. She didn't pull away. "Then let me break with you," he whispered. May looked up sharply, and in a single breath, One trembling, impossible breath, she stepped into him. Silas didn't know who moved first. He only knew that suddenly May's lips were on his, her hands gripping his coat, her heartbeat pounding against his chest. The kiss was desperate and quiet and aching with 10 years of buried feeling. Silas had forgotten what it felt like to be alive. May reminded him in one shattering moment. When they broke apart, both were breathless. That was, May whispered. A mistake, Silas forced out. Completely. Can't happen again. Absolutely not. Then she kissed him again. Slowly this time. Softly. Dangerously. When they finally stepped apart, May wiped her eyes with her glove. We can't do this, she said. We can't build anything. Not with so much standing between us. I know. Good. They stared at each other. Both lying. Both knowing it. Both trying to pretend. Let's finish the survey, May said hoarsely. Before the weather turns. Silas nodded. But nothing, not the wind, nor the snow, nor the climb back down, could undo what had happened. The past was viable. The choice would come, and when it did, it would break someone. The question was who? The sun dipped behind the far ridge as Silas Boone and May Quinn made the long descent back toward Redwood Basin Lodge. Snowflakes drifted in a loose curtain, soft at first, then sharper like tiny blades. A storm was building. May walked ahead, keeping her distance now, keeping her breath steady, keeping the kiss buried somewhere behind her ribs where she hoped it would stop echoing. But Silas felt it with every step. He felt it in his hands, in the place May's fingers had gripped his coat, in the ghost of her lips, in the silent ache neither of them dared name. A dozen times he nearly called out to her. A dozen times he didn't. By the time they reached the lodge, dusk had turned the world blue and brittle. Warm lamplight glowed through the patched windows. Children's laughter seeped through the cracks. Home. May paused at the door, breath fogging. She didn't look at Silas. The past works, she said quietly. You saw that yourself. I did. You'll tell your partners? I'll tell them everything. That doesn't mean they'll listen. No, Silas admitted. It doesn't. May nodded once, sharp, resigned, and stepped inside before he could say more. The familiar warmth hit them both immediately. Lila was drawing by the fire with her new doll propped beside her. Jamie was on the floor, building something complicated with wooden trains. Rose was curled in the rocking chair, reading a book by lamplight, her lips moving slightly with each word. Martha Hanley, the woman from town who'd watched them, greeted May warmly. They ate well, she said. Played well, too. No trouble. May thanked her, paid her in eggs and beans, and saw the woman out. Silas kept his distance, standing near the wall like someone afraid to disturb a world that wasn't his. He wasn't sure he belonged inside these walls. He wasn't sure he ever had. Later, after dinner dishes were cleaned and stories read, and Rose tucked in with her new scarf wrapped around her like a blanket, May stood at the kitchen table, hands flat on the wood, staring at a piece of paper. More accurately, staring through it. Silas recognized the look. Fear wrapped in anger. Anger wrapped in control. She was bracing herself. He approached carefully. May, he said. She didn't look up. What did the numbers show? That dead noon pass is viable, he said. More costly, more difficult, but absolutely viable. May closed her eyes. Just for a second. Just long enough for hope to flicker. Then she hardened again. And the board? Will they approve it? I'll recommend it. That's not the same as answering my question. He hesitated. May opened her eyes, and some small part of her saw the hesitation. Saw it and broke. So that's a no, she whispered. You're going to take the house. Silas stepped forward. I haven't decided. You have decided, May said, voice just above a breath. You just don't want to say it out loud. Not after everything. Silas swallowed. You're wrong. Then say the words. May said. Say, May, I won't take your home. Silas opened his mouth. Nothing came out. May looked at him like something inside her cracked. I see, she said softly. Thank you for the honesty. She began clearing the table with movements too precise, too quiet. Silas wanted to speak, to defend himself, to explain the board, the cost, the risks, but his throat stayed tight. This wasn't business anymore. This was personal, dangerously personal. May, he tried again. Not now, she said without turning. Not in front of my children. But her voice trembled, and that hurt worse than anything she'd said. They didn't speak again until the next morning, when a horse thundered toward the lodge so fast the ground trembled. Silas stepped outside. A rider leapt down, cheeks red from cold, snow caked to his coat. Telegram for Silas. Boone, the man said. Urgent. Silas tipped him, took the folded paper, and opened it. Just one look drained the color from his face. Dead noon pass, route rejected stop. Board demands original timeline stop. Proceed with acquisition immediately stop. Construction begins March 1st stop. Signed, Clayton Marsh. His partner, the man with no patience for delays. No sympathy for widows. No interest in anything but profit. Silas folded the telegram slowly. Controlled. Careful, as if it might explode in his hands. Behind him, the door creaked open. May stepped out, wiping flour from her hands, her hair pulled back in a hurried braid. Is something wrong? Silas turned. He didn't try to soften it. My partners rejected the alternate route, he said. They want the original plan. They want me to proceed with taking the land. May went very still. How soon? She whispered. 6 weeks. May stared at him. Stared as if trying to memorize his face before something inside her shattered. Then she nodded once. I see. Her voice was paper thin. Silas stepped forward. May, listen, no, her hand shook. No more explanations. No more gentle words. You warned me this was possible. I chose not to believe you. Silas felt something inside him tighten. May, please, she said, voice breaking, don't comfort me. Don't pretend there's a way out that isn't a lie. Just don't. She turned away sharply, just as the door burst open again. Jamie staggered in, crying, face bloodied, lip split. May gasped. Jamie, what happened? Silas demanded, dropping to his knees. Jamie tried to speak, but couldn't. Rose rushed in behind him, furious, shaking. The Miller boys, she said, chest heaving. They ambushed us. Said awful things about Mama. Said she was selling herself to you for money. Said that's why we got new clothes. Said, Jamie choked on a sob. May pulled her son into her arms, her whole body trembling with rage and shame. She stroked his hair. Baby, look at me. You did nothing wrong. I tried to stop them, Jamie sobbed. I told them Mama's good. That she ain't. Ain't what they said. Silas felt a surge of heat, deep, primal, violent. Where are they? He growled. Rose pointed toward the ridge. Ran off when Jamie hit Tommy Miller hard enough to make his nose bleed. Silas stood. May looked up sharply. Don't, she whispered. Silas clenched his fists. I won't let anyone shame you. We're your children. This isn't your fight. The hell it isn't. Their eyes locked, grief and fury boiling between them. Silas had fought many battles in his life. Financial, territorial, political. But never a battle that mattered like this. Never one where losing meant breaking something already fragile. He looked at Jamie's trembling form, at Rose's wide eyes, M.A. holding her son like she wished she could hold back the entire world. Silas knew then that something had changed. Not because of the kiss, not because of guilt, but because he cared, more than he'd ever thought possible. He stepped toward May, voice low. I'm not letting anyone do this to your family. May's voice cracked. You're already doing this to my family. Silas's breath hitched. Her words landed like a bullet. She flinched as soon as they escaped. I didn't mean... Yes, Silas said quietly. You did. And maybe she was right. Maybe he was destroying them in a slow, quiet way that hurt far more than any fist or insult. May closed her eyes. Tears slipped free. Just go inside, she whispered. Please. Silas didn't move, because he had finally realized something. Something terrifying. Something undeniable. He wasn't protecting his heart from May Quinn. He was protecting himself from the man he was terrified of becoming if he didn't try to save her. He took a breath, then another, then finally said the words he'd never said to anyone. I'm going to Denver. Mice. Eyes opened. What? To face the board, Silas said. In person. To fight for the pass. To fight for your home. May stared at him. You'd risk your position for me? For you, Silas said. And for your children. He paused. For myself, too. May shook her head, tears falling freely now. You don't owe me that. No, Silas said. But I owe it to the man I want to become. He stepped back. I leave at first light. May looked at him like he was a miracle she didn't dare believe in. But she didn't stop him. Couldn't stop him. Because some decisions had to be made alone. Some choices defined man. Silas Boone was about to make his. The sky was still black when Silas Boone saddled his horse in the frozen yard behind Redwood Basin Lodge. Frost creaked under his boots. His breath rose in pale clouds. The world was quiet enough to hear snow settling on branches. May Quinn watched from the doorway, wrapped in her blue wool cloak, arms crossed tight against the cold, and everything else. She didn't speak at first. Neither did Silas. Finally, May stepped forward, boots crunching softly. You don't have to do this, she said. Silas slipped the saddle straps through the buckle. Yes, he murmured. Edo, you owe me nothing. I owe myself the chance to do the right thing. May's jaw tensed. You're one man, one voice. You can't change a board of wealthy investors who see land, not lives. You're underestimating the stubbornness of a man who's already lost everything once. May swallowed. Hard. Silas, what? Be careful, she whispered. Don't let them destroy you, trying to save us. Silas stepped closer, the early darkness cloaking them both. They can't destroy what's already broken, he said quietly. But maybe they can help me repair what matters. May's breath caught. For a heartbeat, Silas thought she might touch his face again, the way she had on Christmas morning, the way that had nearly undone him. But she pulled back. Jamie wrote something for you, she said, reaching into her cloak. She held out a folded scrap of paper. Silas opened it. Inside, in crooked child handwriting, bring Mama home back. Jamie, his throat tightened. May's voice shook. He meant bring our home back. He doesn't always write things in the right order. Silas folded the note carefully. I'll try. May shook her head. Don't promise him anything. I'm not, Silas said. I'm promising me. The air stilled between them, full of grief, fear, and something far more dangerous. Something that felt like longing. May stepped back, clutching her cloak. Be safe. Silas mounted his horse. I'll return as soon as I can. Then he nudged the gelding forward, riding into the dark like a man galloping toward either salvation or ruin. May watched until he vanished into the pines. Then she closed the door and leaned her forehead against the wood, trying, failing, not to tremble. 5 days later, a blizzard rolled in, harder than any May remembered. Snow slammed against the lodge windows like fists. Wind howled through the cracks in the eaves. The world shrank to white nothingness. Inside, May worked nonstop, keeping the fire alive, boiling stew, mending clothes, comforting restless children. Do you think Mr. Boone's coming back? Rose asked one night, curled under blankets. May's hands stilled on the hem of a shirt she was stitching. She kept her voice gentle. He said he would. Do you believe him? Jamie pressed. May looked into their hopeful eyes. Silas's promise hovered between truth and impossibility. I want to, she said quietly. The children exchanged looks. But we want you to believe him, Lila whispered, her small voice trembling. Mama, he's the first grown-up who didn't look at us like we were trouble. May gathered her children close. No matter what happens, I'll take care of you. I swear it. But inside, she felt the first seeds of fear. Silas was gone too long. Longer than planned. Too long for a safe journey in winter. Too long for a man with enemies in Denver. And yet, she kept his room warm, just in case. Silas Boone did not sleep, did not shave, barely ate. He lived inside the offices of the Montana Western Railway, trapped in a war of numbers, maps, calculations, and meetings where men wore polished boots and polished lies. Clayton Marsh, a tall, silver-haired investor with ruthless eyes, leaned back in his chair and steepled his fingers. This is a personal whim, Marsh said, a sentimental errand. You wasted time riding to that lodge. You wasted company funds surveying Dead Noon Pass. And now you want to delay construction again. Silas locked eyes with him. The route is viable. Viability doesn't matter. Efficiency does. Silas laid the measurements on the table. Marsh didn't look. Our surveyors already determined the pass unsuitable 5 years ago, Marsh said. Your emotional entanglements with some widow do not change the numbers. Silas's jaw tightened. This isn't about her. Oh, Marsh's smile was smug. Cruel. Word in town says otherwise. The Quinn woman's name is crawling through every saloon and parlor. She's not exactly subtle, is she? Silas slammed his hand on the table. Watch your mouth. Marsh raised an eyebrow. Touched a nerve. Another investor leaned forward. Silas, be reasonable. You're a valuable asset, but you're letting a personal situation become a liability. Silas breathed through his teeth. The boardroom swam with polished boots, gold watch chains, thick cigars. Men who'd never gone hungry a day in their lives. Men who saw widows as inconveniences and children as collateral damage. I lost a family once, Silas said, and I'm not about to destroy another. Marsh scoffed. Her husband died because of a mine collapse. Not us. But you will destroy her home, Silas snapped. It's business. Then business is rotten. The room erupted in murmurs. Marsh leaned forward. You have two choices, Silas Boone, he said quietly. You can sign the acquisition order and keep your position, or resign. Forfeit your shares. Walk away from the company you helped build, and lose everything. Silas stared at the contract lying between them. It felt like looking at a loaded gun. Choose, Marsh said. Silas closed his eyes. Saw May kneeling by the stove, burning books to heat her children. Saw Jamie split lip. Saw Lila asking if he was the bad man. Saw Rose clutching a scarf that wasn't hers until last week. Saw May's face when she whispered, "Be careful." He opened his eyes, and finally knew himself. Gentlemen, Silas said, I choose Redwood Basin, the same day. May stood at the frost-bitten window, watching the storm ease into pale stillness. The children ate quietly behind her. Hope had become a dangerous thing. She wasn't sure she could afford it. Then hoofbeats. Faint, muffled, but steady. May straightened. Jamie ran to the door. Mama, Mama, someone's coming. Rose's eyes widened. Is it him? May's heart hammered. She stepped outside into the biting cold. A horse pushed through the snow. Rider slumped, coat crusted with white, hat low over his face. May ran forward. Silas. He swayed in the saddle. May. His voice cracked like ice under weight. She caught the reins with trembling hands. My God, you're freezing. Silas half fell into her arms. She braced his weight against her body. He was shaking violently. Silas, what happened? But his voice was steady despite the cold. I did it, May. Did what? I told him no. May blinked. No to what? Silas lifted his head slowly. To taking your home. Her breath stopped. What would that cost you? Silas managed a faint, broken smile. Everything. Then he collapsed into her arms, and May lowered him into the snow with a cry she'd held in her chest for months, maybe years. Silas. Stay with me. Silas. He tried to speak, but the storm had taken too much from him. His head fell against her shoulder. May held him tighter. Somebody open the door, she shouted, voice shaking. Hurry. Jamie burst outside. May looked down at Silas's pale face. Don't you dare die now, she whispered fiercely. You hear me, Silas Boone? Because for the first time in 10 years, Silas Boone had chosen someone over his fear. And May Quinn wasn't going to let that man slip away. Silas Boone drifted in and out of consciousness as May and the children dragged him inside Redwood Basin Lodge. The warmth of the fire hit him like a blow. His body convulsed from the sudden change. Snow melted from his coat, soaking the floorboards. Jamie, get more blankets. May ordered, breathless. Rose, boil water, hurry. Lila, stay back, sweetheart. Give him room. May knelt beside Silas, her hands frantic but precise. She stripped off his frozen gloves, his coat, his boots. His fingers were blue at the tips. His shirt was soaked. His chest rose shallow, uneven. Silas, she whispered. Silas, look at me. His eyelids fluttered. Her face was the first thing he saw, blurred by exhaustion, framed by firelight and fear. You came back, he murmured. You fool. May choked, brushing melting snow from his hair. You should have stayed in Denver until the storm passed. Silas shivered violently, teeth clattering. Couldn't wait, he gasped. Had to tell you myself. May's throat tightened. Tell me what? Silas forced the words through trembling lips. They fired me. May froze. What? Made me resign. He tried to smile, but it faltered. Lost my shares, my position, my salary, all of it. May's mouth parted with shock. You gave up everything for your home, Silas whispered. For your children. His eyes locked on hers. For you. May's breath trembled. The children stood watching, wide-eyed, silent. Rose stepped closer. Is he gonna die? May steadied herself. Not if I can help it. She lifted Silas's chilled hands to her lips, warming them with her breath. She worked with the urgency of someone who'd watched death too closely before, who refused to lose another soul. Not today. Not like this. May, Silas whispered again, voice fading. Did I do the right thing? Yes, May said fiercely. Yes, Silas. You did. He exhaled, tension draining from him. Then he went still. Too still. Silas. May shook him gently. Silas. Stay awake. Stay awake. But his eyes had closed. His body sagged. No response. Fear punched through her. Jamie. May's voice cracked. Bring more blankets, now. Jamie didn't hesitate. Lila started to cry in small, hiccuping sobs. Rose wrapped her arms around her sister, eyes huge with worry. May lifted Silas's head into her lap, her hands shaking as she tucked blankets around him. You don't get to leave, she whispered. Not after what you just did. Not after everything. The storm howled outside, rattling the windows. May bent over him, her voice breaking. Don't you dare leave me now, Silas Bone. Hours passed. The storm eased. The children slept by the fire, curled together like pups for warmth. May sat beside Silas, refusing to rest, refusing to blink too long, afraid he'd vanish between moments. She pressed a warm cloth to his forehead. You stubborn man, she murmured. You walked through a blizzard for us. You ruined your whole life for us. For me. Her voice caught. I don't deserve that. She cupped his cheek gently. You should have stayed away. Should have saved yourself. You didn't owe me anything. Not this. Not your home. Not your career. Not your future. Her breath trembled. And yet you gave all of it. She leaned in closer. And now I'm terrified I'm going to lose you anyway. Silas stirred. Barely. A weak sound escaped his throat. May, she froze. Then gently touched his shoulder. I'm here. I'm right here. Silas's eyelids cracked open. Fear hit her so abruptly she grabbed his hand. Silas, she whispered, you scared me. He swallowed. Hard. You crying? May stiffened, then glared through tears. No, Silas's lips twitched faintly. Looked like crying. Shut up. Can't, he murmured. Too cold. May's laugh broke mid-breath. It was soft, pained, relieved all at once. Then let's warm you up. She pulled another blanket over him, then paused when his hand caught hers weakly. May. Yes. Tell me something, he rasped. What? That you're not angry I lost everything. May's eyes softened. Oh, Silas. I'm furious. His face fell. May leaned closer, gripping his hand tighter. I'm furious, she whispered, because you didn't have to do it alone. Silas blinked slowly. You walked away from a lifetime of work, May said, tears spilling over, without letting anyone stand beside you. Without letting me stand beside you. You let them corner you, and you fought a battle meant for two. She leaned her forehead against his. You didn't have to protect me. You could have trusted me. Trusted that she broke off. Silas squeezed her hand. Trusted that you what? He asked weakly. May hesitated. Her heart pounded. Trusted that you mattered to me, she whispered. More than you realize. Silas's throat bobbed. He shifted slightly, wincing. May, does that mean? She shook her head sharply. Don't talk. Rest. Need to hear you say it. Silas, please. His voice was thin as smoke. May exhaled shakily. Fine, she whispered. You matter. You matter to me more than I wanted you to. Silas's eyes drifted shut. A small, tired smile flickered across his face. That's enough, he breathed. May stroked his hair, fighting the panic still sitting low in her chest. "You're safe," she murmured. "You're home." The next morning, Silas woke to warmth, real warmth for the first time in days. The lodge was quiet. The fire crackled. May sat beside him with a cup of broth, hair loose around her shoulders, exhaustion in every line of her body. She saw his eyes open and let out a breath that shook. "You're awake." "Looks like it," he rasped. She pushed the broth into his hands. "Drink." He obeyed. Slowly, May watched him like he might disappear again. "Silas," she said softly, "tell me exactly what happened." Silas finished the broth before answering. Then he set the cup aside and met her eyes. "The board rejected the pass. Marsh threatened my position, told me to sign the order to take your land." May's breath tightened. "And you said no." "I said no." "Then what?" Silas exhaled. "I told them I wouldn't take land from a widow who'd already lost everything. That Dead Noon Pass was viable. That the company needed to value lives, not just profit." May stared at him. "And they fired you." Silas nodded. "Took my shares, my title, my home in Denver." May swallowed hard. "So you have nowhere to go?" "No," he said softly. "I know exactly where I want to go." Her breath caught. Silas reached toward her, slowly, gently, and brushed his fingers against her wrist. "May," he whispered, "do you still want me here? After what this cost?" May held his gaze. Her voice was barely a breath. "I don't want you here." Silas's heart fell. She leaned closer. "I need you here," she whispered. Silas exhaled shakily, every piece of him softening. "And the children?" he asked quietly. May turned. All three were watching from the doorway. Rose with her hands clasped, Jamie standing straight like a soldier, Lila clutching her doll. Rose spoke first. "You saved Mama's home," she said. "You can stay." Jamie nodded. "You ain't the bad man no more." Lila rushed forward, throwing herself at Silas with small arms wrapping around his neck. "Don't leave again," she begged. "Please." Silas's breath hitched as he hugged her back. May's eyes glistened. He looked up at her. "So," Silas murmured, voice thick, "is that a yes?" May stepped closer, knelt beside him, and pressed her forehead to his. "It's a yes," she whispered. "But we're not out of danger yet. Your partners won't take this lightly. The railroad might send someone else. Someone worse." Silas cupped her cheek softly. "Then we face it together." May's eyes softened. "For the first time," she said, "I believe that." Silas brushed a kiss to her forehead, just a whisper of a touch. The kind that said beginning, not ending. Snow fell in slow, drifting flakes across the Daltry homestead, softening the world into something calm and quiet. For the first time in months, Maggie Daltry stepped onto her porch without feeling dread creeping into her bones. The house behind her was warm, warm because it finally belonged to her. Warm because Caleb Remington had turned every edge of her life upside down and somehow made it better. Inside, Millie was humming to her new doll, brushing its yarn hair with a pine comb. Jonas sat near the stove, studying the small survey notebook Caleb had gifted him, memorizing symbols like a tiny apprentice. Ella was helping knead dough in the kitchen, her fingers sure and patient, an echo of the steady young woman she was becoming. Maggie placed a hand on the support beam of the porch, pressing her palm against the old wood. It felt different now. Solid. Safe. Hers. The sound of boots crunching over snow made her turn. Caleb was crossing the yard toward her, carrying a crate of supplies from Coyote Bend. A fresh sack of flour, a new kettle, and 3 small painted toys he'd claimed were surveying incentives for the children. His dark coat fluttered in the wind, and his expression, usually controlled, tempered steel, was softer. Open. The way he looked at her always did something to her breath. "You're up early," Maggie said, stepping down off the porch to meet him. "Habit," Caleb answered. "Railroad men start before sunrise. Even retired ones." She smiled. "You're not retired. You're shifting." He huffed a quiet laugh. "That's one way to put losing an empire. You didn't lose anything worth keeping." Caleb stopped walking. Snow feathered his hair. His voice went low, quiet. "I gained something worth everything." Her breath stilled. Before she could answer, the front door burst open and Jonas ran out, coat half-buttoned, boots mismatched. Caleb, Caleb, he shouted. Come look. I measured the back fence line, just like you showed me. And Ella says the creek's drift changed shape, and she drew it in the notebook. Did she now? Caleb set the crate down and knelt in the snow. Well, looks like I got competition. Better show me before I get rusty. Jonas grabbed Caleb's sleeve and dragged him toward the barn. As Maggie watched the boy tug the tall man through knee-deep snow, something in her heart twisted. Gentle, aching hope. Jonas had laughed more in the last week than in the whole year before. Ella was blooming again. Millie slept without whimpering. And Caleb was changing, too. He wasn't the cold businessman who had ridden up her lane to take her land on a blizzard morning. He wasn't the ghost of grief he had once carried like armor. He was becoming something new, someone new. And she was part of the reason. It frightened her. It thrilled her. She walked toward the barn, boots sinking into snow. When she reached the open doors, Jonas was showing Caleb a crooked line he'd marked in the frost along the ground. It's not perfect, Jonas admitted, but I tried. Caleb ruffled the boy's hair. It's the straightest line Red Rock Pass has seen in months. Nice work. Jonas beamed. Maggie felt tears prick her eyes. Caleb stood and looked at her, really looked at her. He didn't hide anything in that gaze anymore. Not regret, not pain, not the growing, frightening tenderness he hadn't known he was allowed to feel again. Maggie, he said quietly, stepping toward her. We should talk. Her breath caught. Yes, she whispered. They stood in the barn doorway, snow drifting around them, the mountains stretching wide and unbroken behind Caleb's shoulder. What happens now, she asked. Caleb exhaled, slow and steady. Now, he said, we build something. Build what? A life, he answered without hesitation. A home, a future. I don't know what it looks like yet, but I know who I want in it. Her pulse stuttered. You're sure? Maggie whispered. You walked away from your fortune, your company, your place in Denver. You gave up your name in the world. What if you wake up one day and wish you hadn't? Maggie Daltry, Caleb said, stepping closer until his breath warmed her chilled cheeks. You're the first thing I've chosen for myself in 10 years. I won't regret choosing you. Her shoulders trembled, not from cold, but relief so deep it shook her bones. And the children? She asked, voice trembling. Life with me isn't easy. You know that by now. I love them, Caleb said simply. Ella with her brave eyes. Jonas with his fierce loyalty. Millie with her whole heart. His voice thickened. I love them like they were mine. Maggie felt something inside her, something she'd locked away for years, finally unshudder and breathe. She took Caleb's hand. Then say it, she whispered. Properly. He inhaled, sharp and unsteady. Maggie, he said, voice breaking, marry me. Her breath hitched. You're certain? More certain than I've been about anything. I want to wake up in this house. I want to fix the roof before spring. I want to teach Jonas surveying. I want to see Ella go to school. I want to hear Millie laugh every morning. And I want you beside me through all of it. He swallowed. Marry me. Not because it's sensible or easy, but because I love you. Her tears spilled, silent, unstoppable. Yes, Maggie whispered. Yes, Caleb, I'll marry you. He pulled her to him, and she wrapped her arms around him as if anchoring herself against the storm of her own joy. Through the snow behind them, 3 small faces appeared around the corner of the house. Ella, Jonas, and Millie watching with wide eyes. Are you going to kiss her? Jonas blurted. Caleb laughed, Maggie flushed, and Millie clapped her mittened hands. Well, Caleb murmured, brushing Maggie's tear-wet cheek. Seems we have an audience. He kissed her anyway. A warm, soft, sure kiss that tasted like new beginnings in the cold Montana air. Ella squealed, Millie giggled, and Jonas covered his eyes dramatically. Too much mush, he grumbled. Maggie laughed, a sound she hadn't made in so long she hardly recognized it. Caleb looked at the children. How would you 3 feel, he asked, about gaining someone who wants to be part of your family? Ella threw her arms around Maggie's waist. Jonas grabbed Caleb's sleeve. Does that mean I get to help with the surveying business? Caleb grinned. Only if you do your chores first. Millie tugged on Caleb's coat. Can I still call you Mr. Caleb? Caleb lifted her into his arms. "You can call me anything you want, sweetheart." Maggie's heart swelled. The world felt right again, imperfect but full of hope. They married in early spring under the blooming aspens outside Coyote Bend. Jonas walked Maggie down the aisle with solemn pride. Ella read a poem about second chances. Millie dropped pine sprig along the path instead of flowers, insisting they smell nicer. Caleb's voice cracked when he said his vows. Maggie's cracked when she said hers. They built a life together from nothing, piece by piece, day by day, until the pain of their past no longer defined them, only shaped them. Caleb never became rich again, but he became whole. Maggie never had to face another winter alone. Ella went to teacher's college. Jonas became Caleb's surveying apprentice. Millie grew up believing kindness could change the world because she'd seen it happen. And Caleb Remington, who once believed love only led to loss, learned that love was the only thing that kept a man truly alive. Sometimes, on cold nights when snow whispered against the windows, he would hold Maggie close and say, "No regrets." And she would answer, "Not a single one," because she saved him, and he saved her. And that was how their story was always meant to end. If you felt this tale in your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Wild West Emotional Tales, where every story rides through the dust, the danger, and a kind of love that never dies. See you in the next tale, partner.